Panther Nation, the C3 Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com.
I had fun, man, just out, the guys joking, we working at the same time, putting the work in as a team. Like I said, I'm just glad to be with the guys,
My favorite night of the week?
We're going to go out there, and we're playing to win. We're not out here just to just show up. We're out here to win.
I don't want guys that want to win, because really, who doesn't? Nobody wants to win. Everybody wants to win. I want players that hate to lose.
This embodies everything that we are as a team, as an organization. Our motto is keep pounding. And that's what we do, what I'm saying?
Hey, what's up, Panther fans? It's your boy, the Professor, a.k.a. Tony Dunn, and this is the C3 Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. I do it each and every week with my best of buds, Joe Riolano. It's good to see you, my man.
Tony, it's good. It's good to be back on this Tuesday night for yet again another in the ongoing, never-ending, forever moving forward podcast.
That is the truth.
When was the last time we took a day off? It's been so long.
I think we're over 3 years straight. Every Tuesday,
right.
somehow, we've had some fill-ins every now and then, but we get it done. Tonight, we got a special guest. We'd like to welcome Nathan Conley here to help us break down the latest Panthers news, but also to preview the Pats. What's up, Nate?
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Man, fantastic. We look, before we get into the show, everybody go ahead and follow the show, subscribe on YouTube. You go ahead, if you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and hit that like button and give us a share. Join in the comments right away. We already see people popping in the YouTube chat as well as Facebook. I can't wait to hear what you guys got to say. And if you do like what you hear each and every week, look, like we said, Joey says we've done this for over 3 years straight, and we've done it just as a hobby and having fun, and it's kind of taken off. But if you like what you hear and you want to keep it going, consider going down to the show notes in YouTube and checking out our Patreon link just to keep the cost of the website and podcast going. All right, let's go ahead and jump into tonight's show, guys. Tonight's show is Bradberry's wrist shows that plans are just plans. And we're going to be talking about the Bradberry injury, which is a fracture. Not anything to go crazy about, but also some things to be concerned about when it comes to depth and maybe some typical patterns we see when it comes to Dave Gettleman. We've got Always Ready Teddy jumping in today with a pick six we'll be talking about. And then in the back end of the show, we'll be previewing the Patriots and their offseason and retooling and how the evil geniuses just figure it out, how they do it each and every time. So, guys, really what happened yesterday, the most recent news is that James Bradberry, the kind of up-and-coming star, the second-round pick that all the hopes of the secondary are essentially built upon, goes down in a pile or something to that effect. You're just watching it on Twitter. There's that typical Twitter freak-out. And I was watching it. I was at work, and I was still looking at all of these reporters going, Bradberry hurt. I saw Joe Person say it was a lower leg at first, and then that comes out, it's just his wrist, nothing major. And immediately I'm trying to calm myself, go through therapy, and say, no big deal. Let's not freak out just because Twitter and 6 reporters are just doing their job. But then I did start to freak out, Joe, because it reminded me, with all the things that we do have to be excited about, the secondary for the Carolina Panthers is mighty thin, and it seems like it's all predicated on everything working. So, Joe, James Bradberry, does that bring to light the same feeling for you?
It did, but when I read your post about the situation, it really opened my eyes to sort of a different perspective on it. We have plenty of bodies back there, people to fill in, but their level of experience is minimal at best, and that's where your concern is. You have 2 young guys already playing the position. They did not get a full season of under the belt. They do have some experience, but the guys behind them, no such luck. So that's where the concern is for me. Is the ability of these guys to step in and actually be able to play in a game and do so well enough to, keep us from
Yeah,
our
if
defense
if
growing.
required. Nate, how do you think when you hear news of the Bradberry injury, and I'm sure that we're tempering it by going it's a wrist, he's a corner, it's not that huge of a deal, but what do you see back there?
Yeah, I think depth is a little bit of a concern. I think you feel good about the starting guys that are out there. And what Worley and Bradberry showed towards the end of the season, they obviously weren't ready for the action quite right out of the gate, but settled in as the year progressed. And Bradberry specifically, who, a lot of people didn't know, including me when it was taken, wasn't sure he was going to be capable of, but he turned himself into, it looks like, a surefire, down the road, number one shutdown corner. And anytime a guy gets injured, obviously, and a guy who a secondary is so much is going to be dependent upon him. It's cause for concern, but I think I heard about 6 weeks expected to be ready for training camp. So, a wrist injury should be able to stay in relatively still good shape. I mean, he's a physical specimen if you've ever seen him.
Yeah.
So you expect him not to pull a Ben Wickery or a Kelvin Benjamin, and should be able to stay in pretty good shape and be ready by training camp. So I don't think it's a huge concern. The depth, I think, is a little bit because what you had Captain Mutterland at that point moving outside, it looked like he was covering for him, and then that leaves the inside sort of exposed a little bit. Cornelder I thought was a good pick, but don't think he's ready, to be a starting nickel corner in the NFL. So as long as he sort of recovers from that, as most people expect, I think the starting unit is still going to be very good back there. I still worry about the safety position a little bit, but
Yeah, is that
not a great depth, but
yeah, that's exactly for me is that, and a lot of people kind of beat me up over the post and what I was talking about because they thought the focus was on that there was the injury was the problem. But to me, what it does is the problem is it's not just at corner. In fact, we have a little bit more depth at corner than we do at safety. And the idea is that, like, look, yeah, you've got Munnerlyn who's got experience. He can play the outside if necessary. It's not ideal, and he's better. He's just simply better at the nickel. Corn Elder, a lot of potential there, right? I mean, his coach comes out and says this guy can be a starting corner. He can be an outside corner. They used him as an outside corner in college because he was like the best athlete in the secondary. But what we saw last year is that the Carolina Panthers, they put all their chips in or their backs in the corner when it comes to the cornerback position with the problems with Josh Norman. And it's not that it's all that bad on itself and by itself, but you had to suffer through the growing pains of Bradberry and Worley even more so than Bradberry. Yes, they are trending up, and all things suggest that these guys look like they can step into that role. But there's been a lot of players in the league that we've said the same thing coming out of their rookie years too. And I really believe specifically with Bradberry that is the case. But here's the thing is that if anything goes wrong here, it's a very fragile unit. If you go like at the corner position, then all of a sudden you're trying to cycle in some rookies, or even Zach Sanchez, who couldn't even make the team last year, maybe would have to step into that nickel position. There's we got Teddy Williams, who I think today a lot of people got excited because he had a pick 6. But then if you look back to that safety position, you are hedging your bets on this. Kirk Coleman, who has played well. Kirk Coleman's great, but he plays better when he's got guys around him that are playing well. You can't just say like he is the answer. And then second, a 37-year-old safety in Mike Adams, who is a 2-time Pro Bowl, or he's been in the Pro Bowl 2 times in the last 3 years. But at the same time, behind those guys, what you got is Dean Marlowe. You got Dean Marlowe and Colin Jones. And we know that Colin Jones supposedly is super fast, but it's just supposed, because every time I see that dude, he's getting torched. And then the other thing is that with Dean Marlowe, we've never even seen him really play that much. So there's not a lot of contingency plan there. And to me, Nate, I remember you kind of being the one voice that was critical of Dave Gettleman. Right. And that this guy and look, we're Dave Gettleman. We're like, I'm a Dave Gettleman guy. But what I have noticed though is Dave Gettleman does a lot of things right, but he gambles on one thing every year. A couple of years ago, it was Byron Bell is going to be able to shift to left tackle. The next year, it was that Mike Remmers is going to be able to work at right tackle. The following year, and that Kelvin Benjamin would be able to shoulder the road as a rookie. Some of those things worked out. Some of them didn't. Michael Orr works out. But then what we saw with Michael Orr is that if he goes down, you don't have any contingency plans behind that or any way to deal with that. So that's where I'm kind of thinking here is that this secondary, we really could benefit from getting a guy like an old Peanut Tillman type of player.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people view it as sort of me not liking Gelman or anything like that. I got a lot of that stuff, or you know, the popular thing is, oh, you're just a hater, you know. But I really felt like, you know, going back to last offseason, that's where I really thought he kind of dropped the ball. Not to rehash everything, but you had an offseason where you had the disaster with Josh Norman, whoever's fault that was, however that was handled. So you lost your best cornerback. That caused you to completely change how you were drafting that year, just simply because there wasn't anything left available by the time that all unfolded. So you take 3 cornerbacks in a draft where you only ended up, I think, taking 5 picks. And, you know, that set them back to start the season. So to me, a year coming off the Super Bowl, a 15-1 regular season, you come off the Super Bowl, and your best free agent acquisition was what, Paul Soliai? I think.
Yeah,
so,
and he
like,
he
really
kind of stunk, to be honest.
Yeah, and he got released this offseason. So, and, you know, that was, I believe, their best free agent acquisition a year after they went to. Okay, for instance, because I know we're going to talk about this, and everyone says, okay, yeah, Nate's talking about the Patriots or whatever. But look at what the Patriots did this year. They won the Super Bowl. What did they go out and do this offseason?
Well, they made a lot of moves.
They traded for Brandon Cooks. Like, that's a team that doesn't stand pat. That's a team that isn't ready to settle for status quo. And in this league, in the NFL, where every team is, when you get to that top, every team is trying to take you down from that pedestal, I felt like they just sat on their hands. And I felt like Gettleman was extremely complacent. So that's where a lot of that derived from. Now, this offseason, I think he did a tremendous job. There's still a few things. You mentioned the Mike Adams things I'm not sure about. Safety position, I thought, was something they really needed to focus on. They did add someone. It's better than Trey Boston, I think. Obviously, he was really, you know, I guess when
he couldn't tackle, man. He couldn't tackle.
Yeah. And he just wasn't disciplined. And, you know, he moved Coleman out of a position that he was better at. So hopefully that at least gets Coleman back at free safety. Adams can play a better strong safety. So I think it's a better scenario. You got more experience in that secondary at the cornerback position. Captain Mutterland is going to be playing the nickel, which he's very accustomed to doing. So they're in a better position to start the season. But I just felt like he learned a lesson, which is what if you're critical of him, hopefully you learn that lesson. So everyone's going to make mistakes. Can you learn from them? I thought he did this offseason. The only real problem I had with him, honestly, was I really think the tackle situation still is in flux. I'm not a big fan of Khalil. And not only that, the money that they gave him, everyone talks about Michael Orr and he worked out, and, you know, he was just as criticized when he came here. That was a 2-year, $7 million deal. Now you're talking about a 5-year, $55 million deal with $28 million. It's when you're investing that kind of money into a guy that a lot of people have a lot of question marks about.
Yeah, we're 3 years in when it comes to, like, when it comes to the Matt Khalil deal, is that it's a 3 – I mean, while it is a 5-year, you know, you got 3 years with this guy, whether you like it or not. I think here, and I will defend the Khalil deal from this vein, is that, number one, is that we've tried to cheap out consistently at left tackle the entire time Dave Gettleman has been here. He pushed Gross out a year too early without a plan. He didn't, you know, and then so we've gone the discount route when it comes to that. On the other hand, too, is that, like, if you look at the options, right, of who it was that was really there, it's Matt Khalil, Russell Okung, or draft Cam Robinson. And we saw Cam Robinson's stock fall. So I think this is that, for me, while it may not, I don't think, like, it's not going to be the end all be all. Like, it's not, it may not be like a Joe Thomas type acquisition. It could pan out. He could get better. He is healthy. Yeah. And I think it's just kind of one of those things. You just kind of pay for that no matter
Well, you
what.
hope he's healthy. That's the other thing too. Coming off an injury, a hip injury, right?
Yeah.
And I not to completely give anything away or anything, but I had a conversation with a guy who played last year, and not that they were excited that you never rejoice over a player getting injured, but they said that they were almost glad when he got injured. That's how badly he was playing last year. Now, was part of that due to injury? Potentially it was, but he had been bad since his rookie season. I just, I get the not going cheap route, but I think they overspent for a guy who really hasn't had a lot of production in about 3 or 4 seasons now. So, I would have rather, if you're not going, but I would have gone the more sure route. I would have gone with Andrew Whitworth would have been a guy, because Matt Khalil might not be the tackle of the future. I realize he's a lot younger, but I also think Andrew Whitworth has proven he's a much better tackle. And you talk about, hey, if it doesn't work out for Khalil, it's only a 3-year deal. Well, that's basically what Whitworth signed, and he's a much proven better tackle at that position. So for me, I thought there were slightly better options. I'm not going to be completely critical of it. That was the one where I really I wondered, did they have to go $55 million? Because it looked like the only other offer he had on the table, now we don't know what was out there and what wasn't, was from his former team, who looked like they were only willing to give him 3 years, $30 million, and they signed him for 5 years, $55 million.
Well, those poor fellas signed Mike Rimmers.
I think there are two things that we have to factor in with that Khalil deal. Is his brother being the first, his older brother is on the team. So there's going to be there's going to be a level of comfort when he gets into this locker room that he wouldn't have had going to a different team. And he had a great rookie season.
He did. He's got the pedigree. He's got the pedigree.
That was 4 years ago.
He plays just to a part of that level. He doesn't get all the way to that level, but just gets even halfway to that level is going to be marked improvement over the play we've had at that position all of last year.
Yeah, we saw this, Joe. We saw what happens if you give Cam Newton a middle-of-the-road left tackle in 2015. Is that Michael Orr comes in there and just played average. He wasn't fantastic. Right. And so we don't really necessarily need him to be the best thing ever, but we do want him to be good. I do think this is that, supposedly, and sure, it is press, but he did say that this surgery, this is something that has been bothering him through, since college, essentially, right, and that he finally feels better. I think that, I don't know, is that what we're seeing Cody Latney saying in the YouTube comments is Andrew Whitworth is 35 years old. Right. Essentially that, didn't he play right tackle too?
Whitworth? He's a left tackle in Cincinnati for a long time.
Oh, okay. I thought he was a right tackle.
To me, Whitworth, to me, if I realized the age thing, to me, but there's so many more question marks with a guy like Khalil than there is with Andrew Whitworth, who he's been one of the top 2 or 3 tackles in the AFC for years now. So I realize I get the age thing. It was a little cheaper. If you're looking at a guy potentially at 3 years anyway, if it doesn't work out and you have to move on, I would have rather gone with the much sure thing. I realize 10 years a different worth of age, but you have one good season and then 4 pretty either mediocre or well below average seasons for Khalil, coming off an injury with a lot more money and a lot more at stake. So I get the whole brother thing that you were talking about too. I kind of view that a little differently. I hope it works out, obviously. If you're at that point in your career, though, where you need a brother to keep you in line, that's almost even a little bit of a concern for me. Hopefully,
maybe he'll keep the older brother in line. I
don't think it's that. I think of it more as maybe something he was missing in Minnesota was joy for the game, but getting back to playing with your brother maybe will reinvigorate him. Put a spark back in him. Missing, make him love football again. This is just, I'm not saying
we're all speculating here.
Sure. That's what I'm hoping.
Oh, yeah. I think that is the hope. I just also I think to hope for that, I think in a player that you just gave $55 million to, if he didn't already love the game, he has to play with his brother in order to love it. And maybe that is the case. I don't know if I completely buy into that. I would have hoped the guy loved the game enough.
Well, I think this is that
doesn't need that as specific motivation.
I think what Joey's getting onto, and two things, and we'll get off of the Matt Khalil thing, is number one is that first, like while we're looking at him in isolation of his play with injury problems and things, is that so much of an offensive line has to do with synergy of the line itself and the kind of just overall play of the team. So if you've got a team where they're just sending all the guys after you all day and beating you from every which way, that can you can make a player who's already struggling look really terrible. And so maybe with the thing that you get is that with maybe, and I don't think that the brother thing is a huge thing, but I do think this is that, like, how about on those games where you don't play well and Matt Khalil has struggles for a game, and all of a sudden the radio, in Minnesota, they're dumping on him, is that like he's kind of on his own out there on an island, while it may not be entirely his fault. In that career, too, you've got two problems with AP, as a player, like one getting suspended for an entire year earlier. I think he was hurt in one of those years. So you've got some things that, too, I think contribute that hopefully what we're seeing is you put him on a team that maybe has a little bit more stability and potential offensively, I'm hoping. But here, ultimately, at the end of the day, is that the other thing, the last thing I do want to counter your point with, Nate, is that with the $55 million part, at some point, I feel like it's kind of getting to fantasy football talk where we go like this, is like, I would have taken him in the 5th round, but not the 4th. No way. And you're like, so like if it was 48 million or 37 million, what exactly?
Well, the 28 million guaranteed is the big number.
Right. But that's kind of market price though. It's just real market price.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, there was a scarcity. So the market obviously it was set a little higher. Like I said, I hope it works out. And I'm more willing to sign on to the fact that you talked about where the offensive line is dependent upon a lot of other people and acting as a unit. Can Norwell, can Khalil, can,
Trey
the guys
Turner
in the middle, Trey Turner, help him on the left side more than the guys we're helping out in Minnesota. And I think there's a good chance of that happening. And I'm more willing to sign on to that being the reason for him having more success here.
Well, speaking of chemistry, guys, one of the most epic things ever when it comes to social media was put out by Matt Khalil's brother. Ryan Khalil puts out a video the other day from a fishing/camping trip that he took with Greg Olson, Luke Kuechly. I'm sure Matt Khalil was in it. I just don't know him even well enough yet to like notice in the 4 seconds if that was truly him. So I am sure I saw Ryan Khalil, Greg Olson, and Luke Kuechly, and they spoofed Cam Newton's birthday video. And I got to say this. We saw Greg Olson's inner white rapper come back. We saw Ryan Khalil's joking jovialness from the bear suit to all the different things he's done, and all the way to what did we learn about Luke Kuechly? He just looks good in a cowboy hat. Other than that, this was a fantastic video. I am interested in. I am kind of curious. Like if I could be a fly on the wall, they showed it to the team, right? A lot of, for fans like us, we immediately want to go back to, this is the team having fun again. The team that has fun is the team that goes 15-1. Actually, that sounds pretty good. The team that has fun goes 15-1. But on the other hand, you got to wonder, this is like Cam Pitt. Like, what did Cam think about it? Was he laughing with him? I hope he was. I'm sure. I'm not sure he was. Be interesting to see. Joe, did you get to see that video?
I did.
It was fantastic, wasn't it?
It was hilarious. I watched it twice. It made me laugh so hard. I wanted to see it a second time. And those guys did an outstanding job of spoofing that Cam video. And honest to God, I'd rather watch that than the Cam video.
I know. Isn't that wrong? Isn't that wrong? Nate, what did you think, first of all, about...
Not into big booty hoes, Joe?
Actually, Joe's a boob man. I know that, but I am totally. But I thought, what did you think about Cam's birthday video first, Nate?
Look, everything Cam does is going to be magnified and scrutinized. I don't know. The thing that I think the legitimate criticism for me, look, he's going to live his life. He's going to do whatever. He's going to be out in the public. He's not going to care what, the perception is of him. I just thought after a season that he had with the shoulder injury, the shoulder surgery, and there's a little bit of kind of question as to when this all went down and was it after the surgery and, flipping off the boats and, sort of riding in the four-wheelers. I just thought that if you were a little upset about that in terms of the health part of it as your franchise quarterback coming off of shoulder surgery, I think there was legitimate reason to have some sort of complaint. But other than that, I mean, he's young, he's rich, he's successful.
Exactly.
So I can't say that I wouldn't be doing a lot of those same
things. Mine would be so much worse. Mine would have been so much worse. To dovetail that, though, to a Patriots topic, I saw something come out. I don't know when I saw it, but I think it's recent. Is Giselle goes on some sort of program. Looked like she was armed with her lawyer.
CBS This Morning or something.
Okay.
Or is this in reaction to the other one where she was on?
I think this is the one that I'm talking about is talking about how Tom Brady gets concussed a lot.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, she said that he had concussions last year, and then Tom Brady's agent had to come out and say that he didn't have a concussion. So there were no actual reported concussions for Tom Brady last year. So it's one of those things where I don't know if we'll ever really know the truth. And honestly, I don't think the NFL cares. So,
well, they cared a lot about his balls.
Yeah, that they do.
That's true. Yeah, when they want you to think they care about player safety, but then when it comes to PSI and the footballs, that's when they really drop the hammer. So,
yeah, I thought that was crazy. I thought that was crazy to hear her talking about that. I don't think that that's a good look for anybody to hear that. Especially amidst the climate of the NFL trying to care. And with your number one guy, the number one face with his beautiful, slightly overrated girlfriend, I think, or wife.
I'm with you on that too. I'm not a Giselle fan. So.
I like to think she's all right. I mean, hey, we wouldn't kick her out of bed for eating Oreos, for sure.
Right.
I thought too that she was was a little impressed with how much she actually loves Tom Brady. She's like, I want to be with him to 100. I don't even want to be around him for 100 seconds. All right, so
I would be with him for that long too.
I bet you.
I don't know. You're talking to the wrong guy. So.
That's right.
I like Tom Brady more than I like Giselle. So.
I hear you.
Not.
All right, so let's see what else happens. I think this. Let's see anything. Oh, Joe, the real news I think going down. I guess that is of substance coming out of Carolina Panthers. Out of North Carolina is that Christian McCaffrey has not been able to participate in these these organized team activities, and It is because of a rule where if your school is still basically the school year is still going on at Stanford, which by the way is ridiculous. Stanford, it's June. I'm sorry,
it's the Pac-12. It's the Pac-12 because of Shaq Thompson.
Is that what it is? Yeah, and then I think Ohio State might be on a quarter system, right? And some or they used to be. I'm not entirely sure, but I teach at a college, Nate, and so we are already into the summer session, and this is crazy to me. But the idea that what this rule, guys, seems to be instituted is to kind of keep kids from leaving before they graduate. And that is they get drafted into the NFL, signed or whatever they're going to do, and they got 3 weeks left of class, and they're like, screw this, I'm out of here. And you want to kind of have that image of promoting academics and various things to that degree. And so this is that kind of archaic rule. Now, Ron Rivera comes out and says that, look, McCaffrey's being punished for this. I think actually McCaffrey, it's interesting that it becomes a story with McCaffrey. I don't feel like we got enough of this kind of talk with Shaq Thompson. I mean, we did hear he wasn't there, but where was the media coming out and where was Ron Rivera saying hey, this really hurts this dude? But I guess he's a top 10 pick. This rule is dated. It's just simply dated. And to me, I don't fault a kid for leaving anything early to go make millions of dollars. We wouldn't fault anybody for quitting school and starting a computer business where they would make $1 million. So why would you fault this? But does this rule get changed, guys, because of McCaffrey in this incident?
I think the situation is this. I guess if he was to leave and not finish, no, that's right. He's still a junior. Next year would be his senior season, so he's
not even going to graduate anyway, right?
Right, exactly. And it's only a matter of weeks. It is silly. It really is silly. He should be able to go, and this is he's chosen his career already. You're actually hindering him from starting his career.
Nate, does this rule stick around?
Changing necessarily. I don't hear like a public outcry or anything for it. And most of all from the players themselves, they seem to be on board with it. So I think until there's really kind of a seismic shift where there's a lot of people speaking out against it, I probably don't see the NFL or the NCAA coming together to try to change this. It's been around for a while. Like I said, a few years ago when Shaq Thompson was drafted, he had to do the very same thing. So it's one of those things where it is kind of silly to make him go back to school nowadays. He's a professional football player. He's already made his career choice. He's going to make millions of dollars doing something else. So I think it's kind of inconsequential, but in the end, I don't think enough people are really going to make enough noise about it for anything to change. So
if he was a number one drafted quarterback, though, if he was like an Andrew Luck or Cam Newton that had to deal with it. Actually, Andrew Luck, that's interesting. I don't remember even hearing about this with Andrew Luck. Had he already graduated by this point, maybe? Because he stuck around. That's a good question.
He did, yeah. Because he was supposed to come out early, remember? And that was the year the Panthers had the number one overall pick.
He would have been Carolina.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm ready to see this go. All right, so I think that's about it when it comes to.
I have one question.
Go ahead.
I have one question for both of you guys in particular, just to get your thoughts. The Jets did release Eric Decker today.
Wow.
So really, both of our teams have a pretty fair number of receivers already. Do you think either the Panthers or the Pats would show any type of interest?
Nate, you go ahead.
Yeah. And then with the other one too was what Jeremy Maclin was releasing.
Maclin, yeah. I think yesterday.
I think he was meeting
Friday.
with the Bills.
Yeah. To me, if you have the ability to upgrade and create competition at a position 2 where you're not sure what you're going to get from your presumed number 1 wide receiver and Kelvin Benjamin, who showed up to camp out of shape once again, which that in itself was pretty disappointing. I can't believe, just coaching staff, fans, teammates were too happy with that situation yet again in his 4th season. But you would thought he learned his lessons by now. But yeah, if you have, some uncertainty, they added some offensive weapons. If you have the ability to add someone with the abilities of those guys, I mean, basically the roster spot you're sacrificing at this point is who? I'll take that upgrade all day, every day.
Yeah, he would. I think the only thing, Joe, that I'm gonna pass on Decker because of it was kind of like a major hip surgery that he had. I think that the other thing is he was good. He actually would be a fantastic fit for Carolina if he was healthy in so many ways, I think, because he's only 30 years old. He's 6'3", he's 214 pounds. We saw that if you put a good receiver or you put some weapons on the other side of him, he can thrive. You saw this in Denver. You saw this his second year in New York when they got Brandon Marshall. To me, Joe, though, I think that Victor Cruz could have been that dude, though. And we weren't really interested. The Panthers brought him in, and I think that he missed a lot more time than Decker, but his injury was far more removed than Decker's is. That's a great question because look, who do we really got at wide receiver? You're putting your eggs on Benjamin. You're putting them on. I guess you got Funchess, and you're hoping that Samuel can immediately make an impact. Which I think,
Right.
which I'm a big Samuel fan. I think could be an amazing player, Brandon Cooks like type of receiver. But I think there's a lot of high hopes too that he's going to immediately be a go-to guy or can be a go-to guy. Look, we saw that Funchess picked around the same spot, and he just can't seem to find a role in the offense. And I just don't know how we're going to make, what we're going to do in that case. I guess you could say Kieris Garrett, but at least this would give you a veteran presence of a guy who's been around some good programs, been on a Super Bowl team.
That is the reason I think I would bring him in. First of all, you gotta run him through the gamut, make sure physically he's able to play, that he's gotten over this injury. And like Nate said, you get rid of Jerry's golden boy and have him take Merson's spot and see what he can do. He would be, to me, as if we were to bring back Cotry. He would be that same type of role, the kind of elder statesman in the locker room. And that receiver core could use somebody like that.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be opposed to it, especially if he was healthy. All right, we're here on the C3 podcast talking with Nathan Conley, and we're going to shift gears to talk a little bit of the Patriots offseason. The Panthers face the former the current Super Bowl champion, should I say, of the New England Patriots, who for the first time in my life, Nate, when I didn't watch the Super Bowl. I went to the bar and I wore a sign. I made a homemade sign that said, "Not my Super Bowl." And because
Committed.
Yeah, these are the two, and I turned my back to the TV at times.
Watch the commercials.
Yes,
You only had to watch the fourth quarter really to get
Yeah, I heard plenty. I will say this, that if I was cheering for a team or hoping for a team to win, it was the Patriots, and that is really dirty for me to say. But I hate the Falcons more than anybody. So they come back and destroy these guys, and that kind of was just a good moment in general. Now, look, you guys win the Super Bowl. You're stripped of your first-round pick. I haven't paid a ton of attention to the Patriots other than just hearing, like, gosh, they got Cooks, this, Gilmore, and these things. So before the show, I pulled up the draft picks. These guys don't even draft to the third round. And somehow you guys load up. So tell us, what were the free agency acquisitions and what do they do for the Patriots? And then we'll look to the draft.
Well, the big storyline was sort of the little dispute, a little unrest with Malcolm Butler, who obviously is well known for his 2014 heroics in the Super Bowl when he intercepted Russell Wilson there on the goal line. Just seventh round pick, kind of coming out of nowhere, making a name for himself out of South Alabama. And Logan Ryan was also an impending free agent, so they were trying to figure out what they were going to do in their secondary. They end up kind of out of nowhere signing Stephon Gilmore to a 5-year, $65 million deal, one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL. So that kind of, got a lot of people, caught them by surprise, including, I think, a lot of Patriots fans. It's going to be a huge addition. Obviously, you put him back there with some of the guys they have now. Malcolm Butler, it looked like they were going to potentially trade him to New Orleans as well. They end up keeping him. They have Stephon Gilmore on the other side. So they got two shutdown corners. Logan Ryan goes on to make some money at Tennessee for the Titans, which I thought was a pretty good pickup for them. But, in terms of overall, Stephon Gilmore was kind of the big splash name. They did get Dwayne Allen, the tight end there from the Colts formerly. Bartellus Bennett obviously ended up playing a much bigger role than they thought he was going to have to play once Gronkowski went down. So pretty good two tight end sort of duo there in Dwayne Allen and Gronkowski if he can actually stay healthy. But Brandon Cooks, obviously the big one, trading the 32nd overall pick to the Saints for Brandon Cook. He is in the final year of his rookie deal, so it's kind of a make-or-break season for him. You just feel like he's one of those guys that's fit for that offense. So can put him in a bunch of different situations there for McDaniels, and you feel like he's going to just really kind of make a name for himself and have a lot of numbers that you put up. So draft Rivers is a guy they only had, you pick out a lot of people love the upside from the tackle position. Rivers, got a lot of small town or small school guys there in the middle of the draft there since they traded a lot of their picks. And then the other one, too, that we mentioned, too, another guy on sort of a prove-it situation, Coney Ely.
Oh, God, I forgot. Coney Ely, that's right.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see what he's going to do, because if there is a position that the Patriots are relatively thin at, they lost Chris Long, obviously. He didn't have a tremendous impact, but one of those, veteran type of guys within the unit. They got Ninkovich still, and Trey Flowers came on a little bit last year. They traded Chandler Jones away the year before. So if he's going to have, kind of a place to go and make a name for himself, New England's a pretty good place to do it. You make a name for yourself there. You can make yourself some money. But looked like his time was up in Carolina. He just was way too inconsistent. And, carried him away to move up like 8 spots in the draft. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. But if there's, if he can get that rotation and get some production, maybe he can get himself a second contract somewhere.
If he could play like he did in the Super Bowl every game,
it'd be amazing.
That's asking a little too much, but at least every once in a while.
Not right, at least every once in a while.
He really showed. For some reason, I don't know what it is with certain players when it comes to the Panthers, is that they find themselves in the doghouse, and I feel like we have a pretty player-friendly environment. But Coney Ely, if we go back from the very beginning, Rivera was dumping on this kid from day one about how he needed to practice better and this, and then you heard these stories about camp. You almost felt like, gosh, these guys are really being hard on this kid and singling him out from the beginning. But then there's this continued presence there where there's something going on underneath. And if anybody, look, and Nate, maybe you know what it is. I don't know what it is, but when it comes to Cameron Artis-Payne, why the heck does Cameron Artis-Payne average 4 yards a carry and actually produce every time he gets the rock, and the dude can't even get a hat each week? So there's these mysteries, and Coney Ely kind of fits in that box for me.
He does.
Yeah, kind of an anomaly in a sense, where you see so much of the talent, you see the upside, you see the burst, but the consistency just is really lacking. If the Panthers win the Super Bowl, you're talking about him maybe being Super Bowl MVP.
Yes,
in that game.
I mean, he had the same game as Von Miller, the same exact game. Yeah, I still think Cameron Artis-Payne slept with Rivera's daughter. That's my theory.
It is interesting because and they needed when they were banged up with Jonathan Stewart, and you thought he would get a chance, and he flashed every once in a while, but
there's something weird.
It's a tough business.
Yeah, there's something weird there. All right, so Stephon Gilmore, he comes from the Bills, right? So you guys love to, man, you got no bones about poaching within the division and making everybody angry in that way. But to me, like you mentioned with Brandon Cooks, this is the story to me, is that you got a guy who I won't say was underutilized in New Orleans, but he didn't really, you're always hoping for that storyline, like you said, can fit in an offense. If this is a guy that you can imagine what he can do in this offense. We felt like that was going to be the case for him in New Orleans, and for moments you saw it. But then you see the same thing. New Orleans kind of has this weird thing too, where these guys, who was the running back that they got, that they traded off when they got rid of Sproles, and they brought in
Sproles?
They got rid of Sproles, and then they brought in the other guy that was a Buffalo dude, I think. God, what was his name? Who was a lot like Sproles.
Oh, yeah, I know. Man, I'm blanking on the name.
Yeah, but it's just disappearing and
played at Clemson.
Yeah, and so my thing is that Cooks, for some reason, the Patriots get the max out of these dudes. Cooks is a nightmare, and what we want Samuels to become is what Cooks walked into the league as.
Right.
So he could be deadly.
Yeah, and like you said, now the Saints offense, very similar under Sean Payton. You got Drew Brees, obviously a Hall of Fame quarterback that can spread it around. You feel like they're very creative as well. So it did seem to kind of go awry there in the end with Brandon Cooks. Seemed like he was a little bit unhappy with the number of looks he was getting within the offense. If that's the attitude he's going to have, that's not going to work in New England. So he's probably going to have a little introspection, a little reflection, and understand the situation where if he's able to go up there and have some big time production and work within the system, then there's probably going to be some money for him in it. Might not be in New England, but somewhere else down the line. But yeah, it's going to be CJ Spiller. By the way,
Yes, there it is. There it is.
Just came to me, but yeah. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating. It's one of those things where you think it's going to work. There's been a lot of players that New England signed where it's like, oh yeah, that's going to make a lot of sense and it could work. And like Chad Johnson or Albert Haynesworth, or some of these guys that they end up making moves for and they end up not working out as well. Coach has a pretty good chance though. When you look at the people who are going to be drawing attention, and he could potentially be the benefit if Gronk can stay healthy. He's obviously a matchup nightmare that defenses have to pay attention to. Julian Edelman, some other guys within it. So you think he's going to at least have the opportunity to succeed. Whether or not he takes advantage of it remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think the thing with Cooks is that while Breeze does command that level of respect, and that there's this offensive capability, and you saw what the Saints have done in the past, is that there's been an inconsistency with that team, and they just really haven't been a super contender in the last couple of years. So that frustration, I think, can mount a little bit more. I'm telling you this: you're getting a Super Bowl winning team with the best quarterback of our generation, and everything that we've seen, and from the Patriots. I mean, you don't expect them to lose the division anytime before Tom Brady retires.
Sorry,
I think
Sean McDermott.
Yeah, I think that attitude, all of a sudden, that pride or whatever it is, can be swallowed real easily when you are kicking butt every week.
Yeah, it might not be as upset when you're only getting 5 or 6 catches a game, not 9 or 10 when you're winning 14 games instead of losing 11 or 12 with the Saints. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah. All right. So, okay. The other thing I think too was I saw one. You said small school guys. You guys took a guy from Youngstown State, Derek Rivers.
Troy.
In Troy. Yeah. Derek Rivers actually played. He's from Kinston, North Carolina, I believe, which is like 25 minutes from where I live at. Yeah, you got a Troy guy, Arkansas defensive end, UCLA. One of the things though is that if there is a weakness on the Patriots right now, because look, we look at the Patriots and we just go, they're going to be great because they're the Patriots. But last year going into the season, I didn't look at them on paper and just go, these guys are a lock. Right now, they're like 37% favorites to win the Super Bowl. Where is the weakness on this team? Where is the underbelly to this team?
Yeah. I think to me it is the defensive line. I don't think they have a lot of playmakers on the defense. I think they have a lot of solid guys. But I like the line. Obviously, one of the big moves in the offseason was re-signing Dante Hightower as well. So I think that was a big key for them to keep him. He's really important to Patricia and what that defense wants to do, and Bill Belichick. So that was a huge key, keeping him. I know he flirted with going to the Steelers and was looking at a couple other places, but keeping him was huge because I think he does help that overall defensive front a lot and cover up for some of the maybe lesser talented guys. Malcolm Brown is a guy they took in the first round a few years ago who showed some flashes last year, clogging up the middle, stuffing the run a little bit. But they struggled to stop the run a little bit last year, and they didn't get a ton of pressure on opposing quarterbacks. So if I had to pick out sort of one area that they might be a little thin at, or, you might see some problem areas arise, they went out and got Coney Ely, but we all know he struggled with consistency. Trey Flowers came on a bit last year. Nikovic has always been kind of a steady guy, but not really any guys that, are going to go out there and give you some double-digit sack numbers. So for me, it's the defensive line stopping the run, sort of that front four more than anything.
What's the status? Is Hightower still a go in the middle?
In terms of middle linebacker?
Yeah, I thought, for some reason, I feel like I heard a while back, flirting that he was getting done with football or something to that effect. Or I
don't know. He signed a $40-something million contract in the offseason. So
that'll put you back on the radar. No, all right. That'll reinvigorate you. $40 million. All right. So, you guys seem to make it happen a year in and year out. Do you feel that the expectations this year And while look is that this is a completely different program than the Carolina Panthers when you look at the experience, and just thinking about how long these jackasses have done this too. Good God, I was thinking about this. I've been reading a lot about the 2003 Super Bowl run for the Panthers. I'm like, gosh, I mean, if you think about this is 14 freaking years ago, and they had just won the Super Bowl in 2001. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
It was like right around.
They won again in 2003 and then 2004.
It's just getting to the point like, it's almost to the effect of, I know that the Golden State Warriors are getting a lot of crap right now for putting together the super team. But if they could keep this together for a while, like there's just really no chance. And when you think about 14 years, they've won the division, like, I don't know, some crazy 16 times out of 17 years or some ridiculous number like that. Is there in the pressure got to the Panthers, and well, in many ways, injuries got to the Panthers, like you mentioned, that the GM did not pull the trigger, and he kind of set on this idea is like, let's not upset the apple cart, which in some ways is probably a good strategy, but at the same time, you do have to be willing to know that you got to keep building, keep moving forward, keep plowing forward. Is this pressure do the Patriots, is this the year where it's just like there's too many weapons, something goes wrong?
I guess there's always, sort of that chance. You haven't really seen it before. Now, the bigger sort of thing is how difficult it is, I think, to reach that precipice against when you've done it the season before. We talked about the Panthers, the year they're coming off the Super Bowl and sort of everything they had to deal with last year and some of the disappointments that they had. They seem to be immune to sort of that dip. Like the Panthers seem to have created the pattern of one good year, one bad year.
Mm-hmm.
They're still a franchise that still hasn't had consecutive winning seasons, which is amazing to me. But they've developed. They're the atypical sort of NFL franchise where every year you see these teams rise up and sort of win divisions, things like that. The NFL and its rules is created to prevent these sustained success situations. They're supposed to be this overwhelming parity, and they found a way. And obviously, it's not a huge secret. It's Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. When you find those two guys and are able to put them together, that combination is going to have an incredible amount of success. And then, obviously, you're able to develop a system where you understand the guys you need that fit that system. And when you have that system going for as long as they've had it, it just becomes, sort of, I guess, commonplace, and it becomes a little easier. Establishing it is very, very difficult, and you have to have the right pieces in place. Having one of the best all-time coaches and best all-time quarterbacks certainly is, it's a little easier to do, obviously, when you have that.
Joe, go ahead, Joe.
The Patriots benefit from their success in the sense of drawing certain players. Players want to go to a winner. Players want to go somewhere where they have a chance to win a Super Bowl. And they know year in, year out, the Patriots are on the hunt. So they may be willing to come to New England for a bit less money at getting to the Super Bowl. And that's something that
huge advantage in the when you talk about having an NFL salary cap and the ability to draw talent there and not have to necessarily pay a premium price for it. No doubt about it.
Exactly right.
I think, look, I'm looking at this now. The Patriots 34.7% favorites to win the Super Bowl, and the next team behind them are the Packers at a 9.8% chance, which is like crazy. I don't even think that's insane that it gets like that, because you're right. There's been so many things that the NFL has done to kind of prevent. But you can't prevent this. You can't prevent a coach and a quarterback from sticking together. And that's what they figured out how to do. All right, so I guess the end. Joe, I did want to mention this in case, I hope nobody's trying to ice this up. Question about this. Eagles logo. You're not doing that, are you, Joe?
I am not.
Okay. So do you guys see the statue from the Falcons put out that looks like the old Eagles logo? What in the heck?
Yeah.
It's an exact ripoff.
You know what should we be surprised for a team that has to pretend they're fans in the stands? It's embarrassing. I
should have just put a statue of Ric Flair out there.
Yes, no kidding. All right, so this is it. This is all right. We're at the end of the show, guys. The last segment of the show, we do the ice up picks for the week, where we tell somebody to toughen up to ice up. Everybody is fair game, from 14-year-old kids in Oklahoma to grandmas. I've iced up everybody. So anything is fair game. Tonight, guys, I'm going to go first. I usually go last. I'll go twice because I got one easy one and then one late one. My first pick goes this. I'm driving my kids to piano practice today, and I'm behind this lady in Audi, and it's a little older Audi. Paint's starting to wear off, but I mean, good overall, pretty good shape. On the back of the car, it says furs are only meant to be worn by animals. Now, I'm okay with anybody that has like, hey, save the planet. I'm a total let's renewable energy, recycle, these types of things. I'm all cool for people, even though I don't do it. I'm a carnivore just because that's how I grew up, but I'm cool for people that do all these different type that all good for you. But here's my issue here, guys. The lady had leather seats. And so, like, I get, like, the idea you don't want to punish, like, you don't want to single out these animals, but you're sitting on one, and you're sitting on essentially what is their fur. And so, like, if you are going to take up the mantle of these things, go ahead and commit. Like, really commit, folks. If you're going to be a go green and you're going to say this, and this, I want to see you on a bicycle. Right? And so for you, this lady in the Audi who thinks that furs are off limits, but cow skin is okay with probably her Louis Vuitton bag, I say to you, ice up. Nate, you got one for us?
Yeah, I got one. New to the show, new to the segment here, but NBA Finals are going on. Obviously, a lot of people are watching those. You mentioned the Warriors early on in the podcast. My boy, I was watching the post-game analysis of the game too, and as much as I love Paul Pierce, he made some comments that obviously gained a lot of traction, saying that Kevin Durant was now the best player on the planet after two games of the NBA Finals, completely supplanting LeBron James, who, by the way, has been playing really well in the finals.
Yes, he has.
Not good enough compared to the team that they're playing against. So Paul Pierce said a little premature there. Coronation there of Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, great player. Yeah. Maybe he's the second best player in the NBA, but after two games in the NBA Finals at home, after what LeBron James did in the finals, who is currently still the defending champ, to quickly dismiss him like he did in his post-game analysis. And I think you saw like Chauncey Billups and a couple other guys. I think Jalen Rose was on the broadcast as well. They kind of just sat back and just kind of let him go and make a fool of himself. So Paul Pierce, I love you, but putting Kevin Durant as the best player on the planet after two finals games, you got to ice up and do better than that.
Yeah, that is a prisoner of the moment type comment right there. All right, Joe, you fire away.
All right, mine is I have an ice up pick. Actually, I saw it on somebody's Twitter line. Bills writer for New York Up magazine, Ryan Talbot. He's been on our show before, actually, to cover the Bills. The year we played them in week 1 or 2. Anyway, he's at Ryan Talbot Bills. Back, Sharice Wright had to get to OTAs. He's one of those fringe guys that, might make the team, might not. And he was in Chicago. And I guess he wasn't able to catch a flight out of Chicago to make it to the OTAs on time. So he went very, very, I guess, contemporary, and took an Uber
Nice.
from Illinois to Buffalo, New York.
For how far?
What was that bill like?
From Chicago, Illinois to Buffalo,
I'm going to map quest this.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, you're telling me you're talking about that's some serious cash to pay an Uber driver.
That is some serious
And
cash.
how do you? Let me ask you this: if you're the Uber driver and you're just trying to sign up to like make a couple of bucks on the end of your day, and like you just dropped your kid off, and this jerk wants you to drive him to freaking Buffalo, like, hey, do you get to pass on the destination and be like, sorry, like I can't do that?
Yeah.
That's crazy town.
This Uber driver,
was it Mark from Gastonia?
what was his name?
Was it Uber driver? Ooh, he would have committed suicide before he got to Buffalo.
Exactly. It was Chicago to Buffalo.
And that's an 8-hour and 46-minute drive, 550 miles.
God.
Right. And the total amount was $632.08 for
That's
the trip,
it.
which
That's
I think
it.
was a really good price.
Yeah,
But
that poor guy's got to drive all the way back home.
Right, but Sharice Wright did tip him another $300.
That's it. I mean, you got to drop $1,000 on that dude. Good Lord. All right. Well, who you icing up?
I am icing up Mr. Wright for not being better prepared. You know, you're an NFL player. You're supposed to be, very punctual. That's a big thing in the NFL. And he made it on time, but his method of travel was just, I think, pretty dumb. I'm pretty sure he could have got a one-way ticket.
Yeah.
Maybe $300, $400 tops.
Yeah. Talk about this. Talk about the fight that's going to emerge between that dude and that Uber driver. It's going to put the Michael Orwin to shame.
Yeah.
My second ice up pick.
Anyone seen Michael Orr, by the way?
No, but he's just chilling out. Yeah, and is that weird? Is there really a story there, or I guess because Ron's going like, we don't know if he's going to show up, but these are all voluntary, right?
Yeah, allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. I'm sure they're not pleased with him. He's probably not pleased that he's going to be having the fight. Yeah, he's not pleased. He's going to have to try to play right tackle because he's not a good right tackle. I'm sorry. I know everybody says it, but he can't. He's not a run blocker. He's more of a finesse guy, and he is not a mauler. So that's probably what he's pissed about. The second ice pick I got is this dude who is trolling our YouTube chat. This guy's got to go. He comes in and he's talking junk to everybody. So you've been blocked 3 times from 3. He's coming signing in different names. So screw you. The second thing is that it goes.
Guy must have a really exciting life going on there where he has 3 different accounts he talks trash.
Yeah, exactly. Pete Prisco. Pete Prisco is getting my ice up because he talks trash to Mike Freeman. Mike Freeman has taken up the mantle of Colin Kaepernick recently, or for a long time. Despite what everybody's feelings about Colin Kaepernick are, like this idea of saying that there is no relevance to what is going on with surrounding Colin Kaepernick and his being signed by an NFL team is ludicrous. And Pete Prisco is now on that bandwagon. So he's giving Mike Freeman crap one day about this, saying, you're just beating that drum, Mike. And I said, and Mike Freeman's cool. This guy's cool because he follows me. And anytime I get a good follow from somebody that's legit, like it makes you feel good. So I said to him, hey, Mike, don't worry what this guy's got to say. And I linked a tweet that from Pete Prisco from 2011-12, where he said that Christian Ponder was better than Cam Newton. And so I said, don't listen to this guy. He said this. And it was all in kind of good fun. I was polite. I wasn't being rude. And the guy comes back and calls me a fool and then later an idiot. And Mike Freeman said, hey, that was actually kind of funny. And so I said, Pete, you're a little thin-skinned for your gig. Like, just chill out. And I kept it together. Usually I'm fuming on the other side. I didn't let it bother me. So Pete Prisco, who is like the ultimate troll for CBS. In fact, it might have been Pete Prisco in the YouTube chat. It might have been him. So to you, I say, I said.
Culprit.
Yes. All right. So this is the C3 podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com. You guys can't hear the outro music, but our fans can. Nate, thanks so much for joining us. Can you tell everybody where they can follow you on Twitter?
It's at Nathan Conley, same place as it's been, Conley.
All right, man. Thanks a ton for coming on the show, man. We hope to have you back. Joe Riolano, It's good. As usual, seeing you, bro. How can they follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Joe Riolano. And please make sure you check out the CarolinaCatChronicles.com website. It is your place for all the hottest takes from the fan perspective.
Right on. My name is Tony Dunn, a.k.a. The Professor. This is the C3 podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. Look, you see it on the screen right now. Subscribe, share, support. We do it just to have fun. We appreciate everybody except for Pete Prisco in the chat room. Everybody, thanks a lot, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Go up, Pete.